Right away after arriving, I'd begun the unraveling of the loose threads I'd left in that place. The night I stayed with my mom, we stayed up until 2 in the morning talking, and at one point she broke down crying in front of me. She said she'd always thought of herself as a bad mom and regretted not being better. I told her that despite what happened between us when I was in high school, leading up to me moving away, as a 25-year-old, I can't imagine being in her position when she had had me at 23. I gave her a hug and told her that she'd been the best that she could have been, and my mom cried in my arms.
There's still that kind of pining part of me that's like, well, what if we had worked out?
Right.
Kind of thing. But then
The next day, one of my best friends came to meet me, who I left without being able to say goodbye to when I'd moved. We'd met in church around 13 or 14. Their parents ran the young adult ministry in town, so along with their 2 sisters and little brother, they all technically had this title about them as pastors' kids.
Fuck you sign, I hate you, go to hell, and die.
See, I was expecting a lot more of those kind of signs, and that's like actually the first one that I've seen.
Yeah, there's not too many on this stretch. There's a couple more after that one, but yeah.
It's probably all bought out by the same people.
Yeah, sounds about right. We were all drinking together one night, like a week later, and I got really, really, really drunk on rum. Because rum fucking destroys me.
That's the first thing I got sick on.
Yeah, it's bad.
It was Kraken, and I was so mad because I love the taste of it, and I thought I wasn't going to be able to drink it after that, and I forced myself to because I'm like, I'm not losing this. I like rum too much.
Too much. This was the only time I blacked out from drinking.
Oh shit.
And it was one of the first times I had drank pretty heavily.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
This had pretty obviously given little bearing on all but one of them as adults. My friend, the oldest sibling, and the one I'd met first, spent the 4-hour drive out of the city catching me up on their family and themselves. The youngest sister was still religious. The rest, including the now 16-year-old brother, were adamantly not. This would be a common conversation point for the following week. The church, its congregation, the camps we attended. This wasn't a conversation we could have had last time I'd seen them. They'd still been heavily religious, or at least outwardly so. According to them, even at that point, they'd begun to actively detach from their parents' ideology.
Really funny to see the rednecks come out because they were all just smiling.
Oh, I'm sure. They got free firewood out of it. So.
Free firewood, and they got to use their big fuck-off chainsaws. There was one woman there with just like a 6-foot blade on her chainsaw just tearing up these trees. I'm like, motherfucker, I want to date her.
There's that feeling you get when you dream about a place that you've been before, and in the dream you just know instinctively that's where you are, but things look just slightly different enough that you feel uneasy about it. And it sort of like breaches into this uncanny valley sort of situation. There were several times on the drive up from the city where I knew I was in a place that I had been at one point, and I couldn't fully describe when the last time that was. But it was all along the same stretch of highway where everything looks the same, and occasionally there's patches of trees or an abandoned farmhouse out in a field, or a church that you don't know whether it's abandoned or not. A billboard that's heavily religious, that has maybe been there forever. And I only cried twice in the car, so that was less than I thought I was gonna have to deal with, to be honest. I had a playlist of songs that I had been waiting 9 years to be able to listen to on the way in, and I got to listen to most of it, and I'm just happy that my friends tolerated me.
We drove to a diner on the northwest part of town, and the middle sister of the siblings met us. She also had changed dramatically. All three of us sat in a booth next to the window, a mix of tattoos and bright hair that stood out even more against the empty tables around us, and the occupied ones with wary, watchful eyes.
But it was
Still shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I don't know. I just
I'm not
Mixed
mad about
feelings.
it
from my
anymore, 'cause
viewpoint, it just seems like
there's
she's
no
really
point in staying mad
uneducated.
about it. But
She has no education in this world,
That's
and
basically-
I am
hasn't
salty, but
hasn't
I'm not
got
gonna
any, and
actively angry about
we
it.
have some high emotions about it, so we
Yeah.
don't sit down and give information
Yeah.
and stuff about it to learn about this stuff. So
Right.
Yeah.
she's had no education. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, even just like us
She
about
doesn't know better.
the human sexuality world. We had no idea. We had no education.
were talking about that on the way
Neither
here.
did they. You know, like so. I think they're kind of in the same boat we were, in a whole worse way, where they
they're
haven't
grown.
even learned and they're grown-ups yet. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like so. I just can't quite feel bad for her about like I don't feel like she ever meant it meanly because she just doesn't even
doesn't know.
She's
Yeah.
so ignorant.
Yeah.
You know, it's like.
I
Yeah.
but I hadn't really thought about it.
Yeah, she has no knowledge in this area at all. Like we had none, she has worse.
Mhm.
That's why they didn't give it to us because they didn't have anything.
Yeah.
They literally didn't know anything
I mean,
at all.
I'm so happy that you would.
We've broken out.
I'm
We are our
really.
own rusty
As soon
flowers.
Okay,
Radical.
so it's no longer religious either. Nice.
Have my viewpoints
more than
prepared,
I
buddy.
am, but like I'm not at all. So
I was immediately like, yes.
Yep.
right.
She carries crystals in her purse.
Yep.
Yeah, I have an amethyst in my purse.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I bought you an amethyst chart for this project we're doing. It's beautiful.
I need to show you the things that I got.
Yeah, we got some rad shit.
We'd changed, but in that moment, it was almost like it used to be. We were laughing and telling stories together, trying somehow to fill in the void of the last 9 years with what we could. All three of us had grown up, seen shit, been through shit, but we'd made it. And at 8 o'clock at night, we ate the 24-hour breakfast and were ourselves again. It had been a while since I'd felt so at home.